You can turn to Genesis 46. That's where we're going to be today. You're going to see Jacob. This is Joseph's father, Jacob. We spent a little bit of time with him, or quite a bit of time actually with him in the scriptures previous in Genesis here. And if you remember how this story has kind of put itself together, Joseph, by his older brothers, was sold into slavery into Egypt. Now they've gone, and this is 22 years later after that betrayal, after that thing that they meant for evil. And we see 22 years later the way God has worked it and willed it, his good pleasure, and how he's now taken Joseph to the heights of second in command of all of Egypt. And through a series of events, the brothers have come to ask for food. The famine that was in all the land, except Egypt, who had prepared for it because of God's warnings and interpretation of Pharaoh's dreams through Joseph. And now we saw last week this incredible moment of reconciliation between the brothers and Joseph, as the brothers have now repented of 22 years of lying about their sin. And I wish there's a missing chapter in here. I would have loved to seen the conversation with the 10 brothers, particularly Judah, as he would go now to Jacob, their father, and say, "Oh, by the way, got some news for you. Joseph's alive." You'd never guess it. He wasn't actually torn apart by a bear. The blood that was on the coat that you gave him, it was a goat. But we made you believe for 22 years that it was your son. We've been lying and hiding. And now through a series of events that that God has worked us through, we see what we've done is wrong. And not only that we see that it's wrong, we've repented of not only that, but we've been reconciled to our brother who's still alive. That was last week upon the news that his son was still alive. Jacob, I wouldn't even know if one of you took Preston out to the Puyallup Fair, and then you said he was killed in a roller coaster ride. But really, you just sold him because he's a 6th grader that reads at a 9th grade level and does math at an 8th grade level. He's way smarter than his dad already. And you're like, I'll pawn him off into like some kind of technology labor. He would love it anyways. But and then he lied to me, and 22 years later, my rich son, that's my dream, right? My incredibly wealthy son that's going to take care of his dad till he dies, comes back and said, what they meant for evil actually ended up good because I run Microsoft now. And I'm like, wow, Lord, my son's alive. I thought he was crushed by a roller coaster. I wouldn't know the emotions of it. I can only but get just a taste. But here's Joseph in the midst of this really significant, Jacob in the midst of this, learning that his son, 22 years mourning the death of his son, he's alive. He's alive. Not only is he alive, but he rules Egypt, second in command. Pharaoh holds nothing back but the title Pharaoh. Not only that, but he's called me now. He's asking me to come and live with him so that he could take care of the dream of every dad, right? We count on it, sons. You're working hard so you can take care of your dad? Yeah? No? They want you to? No. So we'll get old. I know it's coming for my parents. My dad's kind of physically falling apart, and I can reasonably see a scenario in which in the future we'll have to care for them, even though they're the hardest working people really that I know now that my grandparents are dead. But he sees my son has wealth at his fingertips, has anything, all the power in the world, and he's called me back. Wouldn't you run? When I get home from work, I love it when my kids see me and I run to them, right? I was gone for 10 hours at work. And that reunion every night is wonderful. I look forward to it. Little mouse and such a good feeling. That's 10 hours. This is 22 years thinking they're dead. The emotions that must be running through his mind at this point. Can you put yourself there? He must be elated. Well, let's go to it and see what he does. Chapter 46, we're going to be in verse 1 there. It says, So Israel took his journey with all that he had and came to Beersheba and offered sacrifices to the God of his father Isaac, and God spoke to Israel in visions of the night and said, Jacob, Jacob. And he said, Here I am. Then he said, I am God, the God of your father. Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for there I will make you into a great nation. I myself will go down with you to Egypt and also bring you up again, and Joseph's hand shall close your eyes. Then Jacob set out from Beersheba. The sons of Israel carried Jacob their father, their little ones and their wives in the wagons that Pharaoh had sent to carry him. They also took their livestock and their goods, which they had gained in the land of Canaan, and came to Egypt. Jacob and all of his offspring with him, his sons and his sons' sons with him, his daughters and his sons' daughters, all his offspring he brought with him to Egypt. So there's the scene. Welled up with emotion upon learning that his son's alive after all. He packs up everything he can to camel-like U-Hauls and sets out. And he sets out, and then in this significant way, there's a stop at Beersheba. And in this stop, well, God does something. Jacob does something that, if you remember all the way back to Jacob, it's considered a little out of character for him. He stops and just is with God. Now, we've missed a big portion of his life. Maybe devotions with God, maybe time with God had become a regular thing for him. But at this point, he stops. And don't miss that it's Beersheba. That's very important. There's much family history in Beersheba. When I first came back to Renton after 10 years in Snoqualmie, there's so much family history here. My grandpa's farm, which is now 100 houses, but it was right there. The first kiss I had was over there. The first kiss I had with Morgan was in a church parking lot. The first job I had it's still in downtown Renton. The third, fourth, fifth job I had are still all here. The yachts I used to wash are right over at the little Newport thing. The flowers I used to sell on May Valley Road, still there. I see people that I used to sell flowers to are in their 70s now. It's just this weird, incredibly familiar area for history of me, and that was Beersheba. 40 years before Jacob's birth, his grandfather Abraham made a covenant with Abimelech, the king of the Philistines. He planted a tamarisk tree and called upon the name of the Lord. At Beersheba, he plants a tree 40 years earlier and has time with God. And if you remember, it was significant in Abraham's life. It was Beersheba that Jacob's father Isaac had seen God and had reconfirmed his purpose to bless him and multiply his descendants. So what did Isaac do? Do you remember? So there's Grandpa's tree is there, and now Dad's well that he dug is there. It's pretty much what we knew about Isaac. He repeated some of the sins of his dad, and he dug wells. He's a well digger. So he dug a well there. And so you've got this scene. It was at Beersheba that Jacob tricked his dad out of the blessing that was due to his brother, not by God's will, but by his dad's. Tricked him. The emotion. Set the scene. Here's an old man, Jacob, probably sitting under the tree that his grandpa planted, there drinking water out of the well that his dad dug. And he has this moment with Jesus. Why? He's probably reminiscing about all the things. And then you know what probably caught his eye? Maybe his mind. Do you remember what happened when his dad and grandpa went to Egypt? Was it good? Was it a great thing? They pimped out their wives to save themselves. Abraham and Isaac, Egypt was not a good place for them, particularly Abraham. So he's sitting there under the tree, drinking from the well, speculation, but I think it's reasonable. And he's thinking, should I go? Should I go to Egypt? My grandpa, my dad, they told me about Egypt, how different it is, how culturally different it is than Canaan, both pagan, but both different. The trouble that they got into with good-looking wives that would then, they would say, tell them you're my sister so I don't get in trouble. You got to think in that moment, here's Jacob saying, am I doing the right thing? I want to see my son. He's alive. And he's rich. No, he's alive. I want to see him. I want to see what he bought me. No, I want to go and hug him. And yet Egypt, for my family, in my family history, This was the land, Canaan, the land that God promised. He said, I'll make you a great nation, father to many. I will bless you and multiply. I will give you this land. We have the land, and now we're leaving it. And the last two times, it's been bad. It's been bad for my family. On the other hand, it's an amazing opportunity. It's a job advancement for him. In the land that's filled with no food, famine. Should we go? This place has food. This place has opportunities. My other sons tell me that my beloved son, Joseph, my favorite, is going to give us land. We're not going to want for anything. This is the job opportunity I've been wanting. Should I do it? I've got to think emotions were running high for him under that tree as he was sitting before God. And then he has this moment with God. We know he was afraid because God addresses his fear. So God knows how you really feel. He doesn't need your Facebook status to know. He knows. He can read your heart. His Holy Spirit resides in you if you've responded to the gospel. He knows the emotion. In fact, he guides it often. He uses it as a gauge. We'll get there. But there's fear in him. And there's excitement. Have you been in those moments where you just don't know what to do? You're overcome with all sorts of flood of different kinds of emotion. What do you do when you're in that place? What do you do when fear and excitement, anxiety, mixed with hope, when all those things converge? What do you do when sadness overcomes you? God designed your emotions. They're not a result of sin. Your emotions are gauges. They're to tell you different things. But they're not guides. You see, because what Jacob does here is so much wisdom. It's so incredibly cool to see him do, especially if you rewind and remember the abysmal choices that the man made. But if you look and you see Jacob, and you see all the cheating and the lying, the deceiving, and all the things that have happened, and now he stops at Beersheba in a significant place and spends time with God. Why? Because he had emotions that could, in his estimation, cause him to make the wrong choice, to do the thing that would cause consequence for his family. He's with a whole bunch of people. I wish you guys could hear this because I see the emotion. I see the emotion all over your social media. I see the emotion when we have community group. I see the emotions, and some of you fail at using emotions as a gauge to go to God. Uses it as a guide to make abysmal choices. Ones that will have lasting consequences in your life, will tear apart friendships. I see your statuses. I know what they are. They're cryptic. You want people to care for you. They're full of angst. And if you don't use Facebook for that purpose, your lives, your body language, the things that you say, the way things interact with your body language, this whole thing's a status update anyways. And if somebody cares enough to read it, which is what most of you hope, they can see that when emotion comes, what do you do with it? Most of you use it as a guide. And in almost every case, if emotions are used as a guide to not bring you to Jesus, but to bring you to some sort of action, well, the Bible points constantly to emotions given by God as a gauge on why to come to Him, and that you should, before you do anything else. But many of you lash out, look for things, do things out of emotion, and it's disobedient. And beyond that, it doesn't work. You see, because I don't know, we don't know what would have happened, but we've seen in Genesis now, when fear overcomes a man, he's willing to lie and say that his sister, or his wife is his sister, and let her go live with another man in order to get stuff. We've seen what anger does in a couple of the boys when their sister was raped, where they would deceive and kill an entire town full of men and take all their women and children as slaves. God's people. We've seen it over and over again. I won't get personal. That's what community group's for. But I've seen it for you guys. Your emotions lead you to do things that tear people apart around you. That lead you to choices. That lead you to decisions. And I know it can be confusing. But if we would look and just look, our fallen natures, the part of us that still wars against the part of us that's been awoken by the gospel. It's still there, and it can be used as a tool for Satan to guide us away from trusting God. Jacob does one of the really, really great things. The Apostle Paul says, "Let not your sin therefore reign in your mortal body to make you obey its passions." Its emotions, its passions. When you're feeling hurt, what do you do with the pain? When you're feeling happy, what do you do with the joy? When you're feeling confused, what do you do with the confusion? When you feel worried, what do you do with the anxiety? These are gauges, ways in which God will answer you, ways in which God will be your God. It's always weird to me in Genesis when God audibly talks to the people and he always says their name twice. Abraham, Abraham, Jacob, Jacob, Isaac, Isaac. As if, they're kind of like doing something. And then they're like, Isaac. And he's like, what? Isaac? Jacob, Jacob. And then they always, what do they respond? Here I am. Here am I. I'm right here. God, yeah, talk to me. I notice you're afraid. I notice that you're terrified that you're going to make the wrong choice because Grandpa and Dad went to Egypt. No good. I know you're confused because I gave you this land. I know it. I can see it in you. I'm your good dad that knows how you're feeling. I know a big part of you wants to see your son. But you don't know if that's right. Joy, anxiety, confusion. And God's saying, I'll be your God. And I'll give you wisdom. Go. I want you to go. Don't worry, I'll call you back. Not you technically, but your people. This is what I desire. I want you to go. I want you to put away all the confusion, listen to my words, and go to Egypt. See your son. Take up the land that I'll give you down there. And I'll still be the God of your father and your God. It's so good. He didn't use it as a guide. He uses it as a gauge, and he stops. And he spends time with Jesus. That's incredible. Church, if we could do this, somebody hurts you, they betray you, they wound you. If our first thought and first action is the myriad of ways we can get them back, we probably will. And not only then do we take away God's ability to do what he's going to do, which is more right than anything that you could ever do. But then that cancer sets up inside of you of revenge, of anger, of besetting bitterness that sits in there and eats away. The scripture says that, I went past it, be sober-minded, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. Satan is aware of your weak areas, and as soon as you use your emotions as a guide to willingly bring you to a spot that God wouldn't have you go, because it wouldn't be him. It says that Satan just sits outside like a roaring lion, waiting to pounce on that moment where you take revenge, waiting to pounce on that moment where you're so fearful that you can't do anything. He's waiting. Have you ever noticed that when you start letting your emotions guide you to a place, the thoughts seem to get out of control, and they keep coming in and justifying more and more, not doing the right thing by going to God? How many times do you say, that person wounded me, I can't believe it, I feel so betrayed, they deserve justice, they deserve some way for me to get them back, I hate them. And then the minute you start planning and thinking about it, embracing that thought, it's not the still small voice of God is saying, come back to me. No, use this as a gauge that you need me. You need me in this anger. You need me in this bitterness. And you need me in this vengeance. But instead, once you take flight down on the emotion, then there's just more things. Yeah, do you remember that one time they did this? Do you remember that time? And nobody's going to say anything to them. My life is a wreck. Things are a ruin. I can't believe this is happening. It's always when I'm on that little spiral, that my kids do something. Yeah? Any of you with kids know? They're tools of Satan? No. Satan can use them. You're just like, oh, I'm zapped of patience. And then like it's somehow like a beacon that gets sent out to your children. Daddy has no patience. Bloom, bloom, bloom. And then all of a sudden the kids are like, he doesn't have patience, go! This is the time to eat. Roaring lion, we'll devour. Yeah? So often, the emotion was given to you by God so that you'd know to come to Him, and you'd know about what? To seek an answer for Him. To sit beneath the tree, at the well, and drink. Drink of the truth of what He would have for you. We have the Scriptures. We have an incredible gift. When we're in the midst of confusion, we don't know what to do. He doesn't leave us alone to figure it out on our own. He gives us that emotion, that confusion, that gauge to run to Him. Preston, is taking computer classes. He loves computers. He still doesn't know a lot about computers. So he kind of hangs out around me sometimes. Like a little shadow vulture, waiting. And he's kind of, you can kind of tell he's like kind of looking at me like, when's the moment to strike? Because I really need Dad right now. And then you can see, because he's so kind-hearted and wonderful, he doesn't like to interrupt me. Even though some of the things I do are infinitely interruptible. When Kung Fu House is on and I'm fighting, hey, interrupt me, right? So when I'm watching the Cougars lose, glorious, interrupt me. No, don't, I want to see it. But he just sits there and he's like, and you could just see this moment where he goes, and he walks away. I'm like, okay, son, I've been watching you. Dad's not blind. What's going on? And he said, oh, man, I should know how to do this. But the combustion girder in my rotary engine in my computer is broken, and there's a niner in there. And I'm just like, oh, son, Dad can do that. Let's do it. Oh, really? He always gets the look like, are you serious? You can fix it? And I was like, I don't know. Dad seems to always be able to do that when it comes to computers, so sure, let's do it. We're in there together, and and you should see him sometimes. He's like, and he won't sit. He does this like, my dad's going to fix it. This is good. And then sometimes I'm kind of getting a little upset at the computer. I'm like, you're not doing what I want. Everybody saw me here 30 minutes ago yelling at that thing. And then all of a sudden it's like 10 minutes. And Preston's, Dad, it's okay. Go back to what you were doing. It's fine. You don't have to listen to me. It's okay. I can fix it later. I don't know what to, And I'm like, son, shh. Now that you've challenged Dad, every egotistical part of me needs to fix this. 1. 2, I love you. So, I want to fix this for you. Don't. Shh. So then it works. And then I love my son because it's the perfect spiritual analogy. Because he's like, you fixed it? And I'm waiting for the praise, right? Here it comes. You're the greatest dad in the world. And he basically is like, move. And I'm like, your dad fixed that, son. Ta-da! Okay. Okay! I'm never fixing anything again until next time he asks me. We treat God like Preston treats me sometimes. I have these emotions. I don't want to ask. I think I'm going to buy time and try to worry about it myself. He's always telling me, I tried to think of solutions myself, Dad. Good, son, keep doing that. Don't give up. But when you get to a point, I want you to ask me. But God sits in the heavens, waiting. Look, he's there, listening, desiring to hear from you. And so we hold back. God, I don't want it. It's a stupid emotion. It's a girl emotion. It's a guy emotion. I don't want it. This is terrible. I shouldn't have it. Gosh. And God's like, talk to me. I saved you. I drew you out of despair. I brought you to me. I'm a good dad. I'll listen. I'll fix it. That emotion that you have, come to me. That confusion, that anxiety, that worry, that hate, bring it all. Lay it down. Talk to me. Take a moment. Lock your kids in the bathroom. Don't do that. But take that, just that moment. Pray. God, I'm feeling hurt. I need your help. And just like Preston has to wait, don't we wait on God sometimes and then we just talk ourselves out of the fact that he heard or is listening or anything? God, I'm so angry right now. I want to murder that person. I still do. I prayed. What the heck is going on? I still want to murder this person. I don't know why. By the next day, God has you good. There's reconciliation. Not so often when we cry out, we're very much like Preston there too. God, this emotion, this hurts, everything inside me, it's so confusing. I need your direction. I need your will. I need you to know. I need to know what you want me to do. I don't want to be disobedient to God. Whatever it would, cure this pain, cure this heart. You did. Okay, moving on. Move. You know, my son, get out. Minecraft can't be played with Father. How often do you do this to God? Angst, 10 days of waiting, boom. God delivers it, fixes it, and then, good, okay, back to my life. God desires praise in that moment. He deserves praise in that moment because nothing else would have fixed it. Nothing else would have been the solution that you're hoping for. And when we use the emotions to then feel them till it brings us to Jesus, and then give them to him, and then upon giving it to him, as he then works in our hearts, then it's that moment of praise. And pick your praise. Is it singing? Is it a joy-filled prayer? Is it writing, journaling? We need moments. I think him being in Beersheba was significant. God stopped him this moment because he said, this is the place of worship. We've been here before, Jacob. Your dad and I have been here before. Your grandpa and I have been here before. This is your time. Hear from me. It's incredible. Some of you are so anxious to move on with your life, to get to the next stage, to get to the next point. But confusion and fear and anxiety and apathy and all these things reign in on your heart. All these emotions come, and once dieting on those things, once devouring those emotions, then there's all this confusion, and God is just saying, stop. Be with me. Don't stop your emotion. Use the emotion to come with me. But quit trying to go your own way in it. Take me now. Show me how I need to live, not for you, but for your glory. Every emotion leads you to Jesus. Everyone. There's an incredible, cool gift from God, his Holy Spirit, interacting with your heart, that even in the face of sin and brokenness, even in the face of anger and resentment, even in the face of hopelessness, in the face of joy and apathy and numbness, whatever it is Jesus saying, come to me. I am ultimately your solution. I will give you rest. My burdens are light. I will love you. I'll make sure you know that your image is in me, your significance is in me. The foundation upon your life is my great gift of my life to you. You can't do that if you don't stop and go to him. If he would have blown by Beersheba, maybe, Jacob would have talked himself out of it on the way there. Oh my gosh, Egypt, it's terrible. Nobody wants to go there. When they have, look what happens in my family. All right, boys, you've been to Egypt. Go ahead. Dad's going home. Send Joseph a message. Come to Dad. Because this is God's promised land, right? But God says, go. And it fits in perfectly. Let's keep reading through Scriptures. Going to be in 8. And please, I'm so sorry. I was going to invite somebody else to read these and not me, because I slaughter these and make all these Hebrew phone books sound terrible. But verse 8, now these are the names of the descendants of Israel who came into Egypt, Jacob and his sons, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, and the sons of Reuben, Hanok, Palu, Hezron, and Carmi. Sounds like some kind of character from a cartoon. The sons of Simeon, Jemuel, Jamin, Ohad, Jachin, Zohar, terrible movie, Shaul, the son of a Canaanite woman, the sons of Levi, Gershon, Kohath, and Merari, the sons of Judah, Onan, Shelah, Perez, and Zerah. Both and Onan died in the land of Canaan. We remember that. The sons of Perez were Hezron and Hamul. The sons of Issachar, Tola, Puva, Yob, and Shimron. The sons of Zebulun, Sered, Elon, and Jaleel. These are all names that Lindsay and Thomas considered, by the way, when they were choosing for their little girl. I like Jaleel, but okay. They went a different direction. Oh, well. These are the sons of Leah, who bore to Jacob Paddan Aram, together with his daughter Dinah. Altogether his sons and his daughters numbered 33. Whew. Mormons. The sons of God, Zephion, Haggai, oh man, Shuni, Lebron, I don't know, Ezbon, Eri, Aradi, Areli, the sons of Asher, Imnah, Ishva, Ishvi, Beriah, the sons of Sarah, or with Sarah, their sister, and the sons of Beriah, Heber, and Michal, sure. The sons of Zilpah, whom Lebanon gave to Leah, his daughter, and she bore to Jacob 16 persons. Love that. Persons, make sure. The sons of Rachel, Jacob's wife, were Joseph and Benjamin. Thank you for the good names. And Joseph in the land of Egypt were born Manasseh and Ephraim, whom Asenath, the daughter of Potipharah, the priestess of On, bore to him. And the sons of Benjamin, Bela, Becher, Ashbal, Gera, Naam, Ahi, Rosh, Muppet, Huppet, Weapon, Huppin, and Arad, Gimli, son of Gloin. No, these are the sons of Rachel, who were born to Jacob, 14 persons in all. The sons of Dan, Hushim, the sons of Naphtali, Jaziel, Guni, good movie, Jezer, and Shelam. And these are the sons of Bilhah, whom Laban gave to Rachel his daughter, and she bore to Jacob 7 persons in all persons belonging to Jacob who came into Egypt, who were his own descendants, not including Jacob's sons. Wives were 66 persons in all, and the sons of Joseph who were born to him in Egypt were 2, all the persons of the house of Jacob who came to Israel, or to Egypt. I forgot to read that. We're 70.
I missed a couple.
Yes. I will repeat. Doesn't it sound like The Hobbit? So we need to remember something as I slaughter every name that could possibly be there except Benjamin, which I might have screwed that up too, but that the readers of this from Moses would have known this. It would have been very significant to them. These were the tribes of Israel. These were part of their family ancestry, their lineage, grandpa and grandma, crazy uncle, like all that would have been significant to them. Why it's significant to us is that God works through individuals in the context of family, in the context of community, in the context of a covenant-based community. So they make sure, in the carefulness of saying who's related to who and how, priestess of On, Canaanite, Hittites, all these things were meant to say they weren't just firstborn children, that there was this massive covenant family, many of which weren't blood-related in the significant way that would have been counted into a lineage or an ancestry. And each were named with significance because you're not by yourself in your faith. His journey with God, what God was doing and how God was affecting Jacob, affected this entire covenant community. One of just the major blind spots in the American church is that we've made an individualistic approach to our lives and Christianity, and that we've slaughtered it. So when we read the Hebrew phone book, we don't get the significance that what is significant in it is all these people. How they were related, in what way they were related, matters some, because it proves a point that it's not just the firstborn lineage that matters to God. It's every person, 66, 70. You got the counted numbers. All of them matter. Why? Because each distinct way that God works in them forms and shapes this covenant community, very much like he does at Doxa. It's significant that when we talk about Doxa, we don't just say Brian and the 4 leading deacons and the whatever number of serving deacons, and that's all we list. It's not just like, oh, only some people should go to community group because, I'm not as far along as others, or I wouldn't have anything to contribute, or I don't know everyone as well, or significantly I'm a Hizite and they're all parasites, and I just can't function in this environment. And God says, no, no. I called you. You're a Doxa. You're a part of this. We're together. You're a unique body. Relating to the church at large, yes. But the call, the part of this where we bring this together is you're significant as an individual, but only as part of a whole. The way Jake and I relate to each other matters to you. The way God interacts with your pastor doesn't just matter on Sunday morning. It matters on every day. When we're together at Menchie's having froyo, it matters. Because what God is doing in your life is not wasted on just you as an individual, and you're not a waste as a person. But he means for it to be communicated out and effective in nurturing a covenant environment where people feel nurtured. So the hopelessness that you feel, it's not for you to carry alone. It's so that when you share it, God works through his people the way he chose to. You can argue with it. You don't win. God does. And he says, this is how I work to my people. I work in them as individuals. Our personal relationship with Jesus is incredibly important. But there's a significant lack to it when it's not influenced and a part of other people's life, even if you live far, far, far from perfection. Because if you do, you're the pastor of this church. And God still works. And God still teaches me. You know what I love to do? Love this. Poor Ashley and Sammy, Ashley Posey, she's doing children's. And Sammy came to Starbucks, and I was about to meet with Andrew. And I was working for an hour, and I was writing this, and I just needed a break. So I started reading literally the best book I've ever read in gospel wakefulness. It's bumped out. Glory of Christ is my favorite book of all time, and I'm like 36 pages in. So I don't know what that says about the book, but hopefully he doesn't dive bomb the rest of it. But the first 36 pages of this 211-page book is awesome. It's just... So, of course, I'm reading it, and I'm like, I can't go a sentence without stopping. I'm like, and of course, Sammy's staring at me from the window, like in this really awkward way. Her face is just right here. And I don't know, because I'm so enraptured in this, and of course, there's like a Mariners game floating, so I'm enraptured in this, and then going, we're losing, I need Jesus, And so, and then all of a sudden, like the barista from behind the counter goes, there's a woman staring at you. And I was like, of course it's Sammy. And so they come in, and then I'm like, hey, Andrew won't be here for 10 minutes. And at that moment, I got a text that he's going to be 10 minutes late. I'm like, I got 20 minutes to tell you guys everything I just read. So poor deer in the headlights, Sammy and Ashley came in on their date, and I was like, listen, listen to this. And I just started dramatic reading at Starbucks, I wanted to stand up on the table. Oh, Captain, my Captain! And I'm like, listen to this. Listen to what this is. And Sammy's like, why? No. And Sammy's like, really? And they're both standing there. I'm like, you guys could have a seat? No, stand. Okay, that's fine. We're in the presence of a great book. Sure, stand in honor of it. And I'm reading because what I was reading was so impacting me. I had to share it. I get it out. And then when they didn't talk about it, I'm sure, for the rest of the night. But hopefully, at some point, what God was doing in me then interacts with them, and then with each other, and with each other's chother, and each other's chother, and the sons of Beeri is the son of a Hittite, and then it goes to each person, and yeah, that's how God works. And so when we're feeling dry and alone and broken with no hope, our statuses indicate that. You need people that love Jesus, that Jesus loves, that works on, that are willing to talk to you about Jesus. That are willing to say things about who he is and what he's done. Gospel wakefulness, it's over there. Bye. It's incredible. The awakeness to the gospel. And poor Sammy and Ashley, they just want to have coffee. But no, when God works, you have to share it. You have to get it out. And that's in the significance of this is what was happening in Jacob and his sons was affecting all these people. Want your mind to go, psh. How God was guiding them was to slavery. Generation upon generation upon generation of slavery. Hard work. Because he knew what it would do. He knew what kind of people he was creating. When you have turmoil and things that you're wrestling through, he knows what he wants to do in the lives of you and people around you. When you wrestle with that out loud. Nothing cooler than what happens next. Let's keep reading. We're almost done. I'm almost way over. Verse 28. He had sent Judah ahead of him to Joseph to show the way before him to Goshen. And they came into the land of Goshen. Then Joseph prepared his chariot and went up to meet Israel, his father, in Goshen. He presented himself to him and fell on his neck and wept on his neck a good while. Israel said to Joseph, now let me die, since I have seen your face and know that you are still alive. There's that scene. Joseph comes back. There's Dad. Eyes meet a long way. An embracing hug. A weep. It's right, taken from the pages of A Walk to Remember, right? Where he's knocking on the door, and there's the dad. And I cry every time. It's the scene. It's the scene that everyone's waiting for. The embracing, the wonderment. All the names we just read that I just slaughtered. All of them captivated by this scene that's coming. All of them affected by the brother's repentance, the father's return, the son coming up, the embrace, the falling on the neck, the kissing, the weeping, the wonderment of family reconciliation. Because to God, covenant family is so important, of most importance in many ways. And there's this whole Hebrew phone book of people with all their names watching Jacob and Joseph embrace. The beauty of community, the beauty of what God does in your life is when you have struggled out loud and you've wrestled and you've thought through fear and anxiety and depression and hurt and anger and bitterness and joys that lead you away from God, temporary joys, fixed things that are idols that you worship. When you struggle through those things out loud and we get to watch God answer you, when we get to watch a spiritual figurative hug as you come to group, as you come to, oh my gosh, can you believe I've struggled with this for so long and now freedom. God gave me the hug of his forgiveness. We're reconciled. What has been broken between us. And I don't know what it did in the 70 people that were watching or the 68 people that were watching these two hugs, 69 if I get my math right, but of these people, but I got to imagine they're that much closer to God in that moment. Oh, nothing more cool than a scene of reconciliation. We're awkward church. We're weird church. I'll do this. hanging out outside of church. Somebody's life hurts, falling apart. God says, no, let's talk about it. And then people get to watch. I hear this repeated phrase in our church a lot. I miss the time when. I miss when we did. I hope this happens again. I want to see this. Because when somebody's life is answered by the gospel, when the hope of the gospel is answered in the midst of brokenness, there is nothing more edifying to your faith, nothing that builds you up more, nothing that gives you a significant boost like that. So many times I've heard, yeah, Brian, Jesus answered me. How? When? I'd like to know. When you were working with that person, talking with them, and there was reconciliation. And years of bitterness flooded out of me in that one moment. And the truth of what Jesus did to set me free. Oh, man. I don't want to tell people. And our lives to be affected by it. I need that. 22 years. This group of people had been journeying together. 22 years. They had probably not seen something so significant. 22 years of watching Seahawk games. 22 years of eating food they shouldn't. 22 years of going to the fair. And this significant moment that changes everything. It's yours. It's yours to be had in the gospel. It's yours to be had in this community as we've covenanted together by even our mere attendance, yet our commitment to one another to see God's glory work out. In 3 weeks, we're done with Genesis, right? 64. That's not bad. Number 64 weeks. That's pretty good. We're going to do 5 weeks after that of a topical series of who we are as Doxa, teaching our core beliefs, our core values. We're going to serve lunch during service. It'll be a brunch. It'll be amazing right here. 5 weeks of eating while I'm talking. It's the thing you guys have most wanted. It's coming together. We're going to do worship at the start of service. We're going to have a buffet line set up. You're going to eat. It's going to be bacon, I promise. It's just how we are. You're going to eat it while I'm talking about who we are as a church. Christian hedonism, Reformed theology, all these things that make us who we are. What makes us who we are is the gospel. United on that central fact of what Jesus Christ did, and no other hope outside of that work. Everything, worship, children's, youth, Sunday service, watching football, all of it, centers Jesus. It's the reason we do everything, the gospel. It's yours to take hold of. God means to save you and awaken you to the truth of it. Make you alive in the midst of your confusion or despair. Be awakened. It's incredible. Let's pray.